So welcome back to A Scotch and a Beer with Officer Dan. Late this week. Apologize, had a super busy weekend attending a drift event in Colorado with my boys from Ongsingco. It was a good time. I put out a video. You can check that out right here. Anyway, it was a blast, but it really put me off schedule on doing these videos. So apologies in advance and in the past for messing up. So episode 9 is going to be as quick as I can possibly make it. I don't have a whole lot of time this week. I am working heavily all this week, and then I have to go back up to Colorado for grid life. So I do need to make this as quick as possible and probably film next week's right on top of this and get those both edited and ready to go. I'm probably going to release this video at noon, and it's going to be Wednesday. But hey, that's better than not having it at all, right? So in the last episode, Car Crafters and I had built a fresh new car that we promptly didn't get ready for the first event we were trying to go to. I borrowed a car from Anthony Sioka. I didn't do as well as I wanted to, but I still made top 20. Got home from that event. Thanks to Scotty Fox, we finished the car, got it running, did some testing, and went to the next event. At said event, I crashed the car immediately. Oh my God, idiot. Jim gave up his qualifying spot, and I made my first top 16 at a Pro-Am ever. Pumped on that though. In this episode, I'm just gonna be going over Top Drift Round 2 in 2011, which is Horsethief Mile, aka my favorite track in the entire freaking world. But first, and rather quickly, a Scotch and a beer. So this is a beer that I found in my refrigerator. It is the Ballast Point Mango Even Keel Session IPA. And I don't get people's obsessions with IPAs because I believe it tastes like licking a pine tree or drinking a bottle of Pine Sol. Let's see if this one, mixed and infused with mangoes, can change my mind. Nope. Still tastes like a pine tree. I don't know how you hipsters do this. I can't get into it. So good try, Ballast Point, but oh, it's bitter. I can't get into it. Anyway, moving right along. This time we have something a little bit different. I actually got this on sale at Trader Joe's for like 39 bucks. It's a $110 bottle of Scotch, and it is called Alexander Murray and Company's Polly's Casks. It's double barrel aged Highland single malt. Let's see what she says. This unique whiskey, an Alexander Murray Company collaboration between the very best of the old world and the new, the Highland's own Tullibardine Distillery in California's multi-award-winning Firestone Walker Brewing Company has produced what is sure to become a highly sought-after, utterly unique, and truly exceptional limited edition single malt with a hint of New World, a whiskey that literally has no peers. The reviews on this online are not very good, but since the bottle was well over half off, and it is a cool looking bottle and does come with a cool looking box, I made the plunge and did it myself. It doesn't say anything about the finish, the nose, the age, so it's literally unknown to me. And I've had it a few times, but now I'm gonna be drinking it with my friends. It's a very light colored Scotch, and it does seem like this one has quite a bit of oil in it, so the water should make this stronger. And I think it did. So I've had this one straight up, and it's not as potent as it is now. So that means there's a lot of oil in this Scotch. Again, Highland Scotches are going to be on the sweeter side of the scale, and this one definitely is one of those. So it's a very light Scotch. It kind of tastes like a field of flowers in the spring. It's got really strong things of honey, and I do taste oats, like Cheerios almost. It's not bad, but it's definitely not my favorite. If you can find this at Trader Joe's still, I'd highly recommend going out and grabbing a bottle. And on that note, moving right along. So it's the beginning of May 2011. You know what that means. Top Drift Round 2. Jim, the Car Crafters crew, and I pack the cars up, load the big rig, and head off for California for our second 14-hour drive in less than 30 days. After we finally limped the rig over to Willow Springs, we immediately got lost in the labyrinth that is Willow. We ended up having to back the big rig up like 400 yards, make a U-turn, and head up to the actual Horsethief Mile. I wasn't quite sure how to feel about this track. We parked the rig, I got up on top, and immediately I was like, wow, this looks really difficult. I don't know how to feel about this track. It would be one that I hated at first, and as I understood it and learned to drive it, it quickly became one of my favorite tracks. As we're getting the cars unpacked and getting the pit set up, I see a commotion kind of going over by the porta potties, and I need to pee anyway, so I cruise over. I casually stroll up to the Johns, and a gentleman with a camera asked me politely if I could pack myself into a porta potty with a bunch of other dudes. Now keep in mind, at this point I really don't know any of the people at Top Drift still. I introduced myself to a couple of guys, but being in Jim's big rig and making it seem like I had a lot of money kind of alienated me from the rest of the Top Drift crew, who in reality are exactly like I am. I didn't have any money and I was lucky to be there. So I step into the porta potty with like 5 other people. It's crowded, it's hot, it smells bad, and there's 5 dudes inside a small space. Not my favorite place to be, or maybe it is. So this guy comes up to the door and says, on the count of 3, I want you guys to all jump out and just run away. And I'm like, all right, that's a little bit weird, but I can dig it. I can stand behind this. I love antics. I am one for antics. I'm also one for having scotch all over my face because my ice ball just decided to unmelt and then splash scotch all over my face and or crotch. So that's great. It's amazing how many mistakes you make at drinking alcohol when you don't drink a whole lot. So cheers to me for being retarded. So back to the Porta John story. We all jump out and we run away, just like he said. Now it turns out that this gentleman would be David Karey, who is now a very good friend of mine. He's been to basically every single No Coast since it's ever came out. And one of the other guys inside the porta potty with us was the legendary Larry Chen. Both of these dudes are 2 of my favorite guys on this planet. Again, I gravitate towards media guys just because they tend to be the most friendly and the most open right away because they're used to being able to shoot people. And to do that, you kind of have to have a good personality. So I immediately latch onto that. Anyway, we introduce ourselves to each other, and I have no idea who these guys are, so it's like, all right, cool, and I go to the bathroom. And jumping out of a porta potty was how I met these 2 legends in the drift scene. Kind of weird how that works. All right, let's try this again. Clear. Back to the task at hand. Now, the way Top Drift worked back then, I don't know if it still works this way, it's been a grip since I've actually been to one, is they usually have 2-day events. They have a day full of practice, and then the second day is qualification and competition. Now, a lot of the guys that are new, like me, will sign up for the extra practice day. A lot of the guys that are seasoned and have run these tracks hundreds of times will only show up on the competition day, do the small amount of practice, and compete. Kind of just like it would be for Formula D. One other big difference between Top Drift and Vegas Drift is the fact that you get 3 qualifying runs as opposed to 2. Again, not sure if it's still like that, but it was definitely like that when I was running. Jim and I roll up to the driver's meeting. We're paying attention. Charlie starts to explain the track, the clipping points, the zones, how they're going to be scoring things, and then he asks, how many people have never driven Horsethief Mile before? And Jim and I were the only ones there that raised our hands. Rookies. He points to both of us and says, you guys are in Group 1. You're up right after this meeting. And I'm like, God damn it. I like to watch people and get a feel for the track before I'm forced to go out onto the track. It's just kind of the way that I soak things in. I don't like to jump straight in. I know a lot of guys do. That's just not my style. I like to watch how people are driving, and I pick up a lot just doing that. But luckily, there's a bunch of practice sessions this day. So I think there ended up being 4 or 5 practice sessions per group. They're 30-minute run groups, and I decided to sit out the first half of the run group, sit up on top of the rig, and watch people drive. And I actually wrote this in my blog. I was sitting up on top of the rig watching people drive this track for the first time ever, and this is my thoughts. I said, holy smokes, this track is steep. Holy smokes, this track is narrow. Holy smokes, this track looks like a roller coaster. Holy smokes, this track looks amazing. Holy smokes, this track really does separate the men from the boys. Again, some of the stuff that comes out of my mouth. I don't know. That's what I wrote, and I'm just repeating what I said in 2011. No big deal. And for those of you that have never driven at Horsethief Mile, I highly recommend doing so. But I'm also going to give you my visual rundown of how it looked like it worked before I'd even driven it. You come around the first turn at the bottom of the hill, accelerate uphill, full throttle, second, possibly third gear, all the way to the top of the hill. Initiate hard using a weight transfer and possibly some e-brake, bringing the car as close to full lock as possible. You immediately get back on throttle, hitting a very late apex inner clipping point, then driving an awkward line hanging both tires off the outside of the track. You maintain that distance as long as you can, then flick back the other direction, quickly accelerating down a very steep hill, bringing your tires to the very outside of the track to hit the next inner clipping point around another hairpin. It looks like if you don't get enough speed here, your run is over. You throttle out and through to an outer zone, then transition back to another outer zone, and finally an inner clip around the last hairpin, then finish line. I don't know what I was trying to do or sound like or say, but reading it back again now versus 2011, it's pretty damn accurate. Kind of fun reading back on old thoughts like that. So about halfway through watching all these guys do the track, I decide it's time to man up and head out. On my first lap, I noticed that the car is really down on horsepower. Remember, we had just got it running and fixed and tuned and did one test day, then headed out to this event. Now, I'm used to driving with low horsepower, so I just deal with it at this point. Jim's having some issues, so it's like all hands on deck with Jim's car. So I just maintain and just keep on practicing. After my first 2 or 3 laps coming down and then accelerating up the hill, I'm initiating way too late and I end up in the desert like 3 times in a row. I am now covered in dirt and frustrated as hell at this point because I've never had to initiate uphill like this. It's like I felt like I was going too fast, but I would initiate way too late because of that feeling and go flying off the track. I was trying to initiate earlier, but I really just couldn't make myself do it. I didn't realize how much a steep track plays into being able to initiate and gravity pulling you back down. Enter my Zen master, Mike Bolanos, once again with the clutch advice. And he says, hey man, you know, when you're learning a new course that you've never done before, you should always work your way from the finish line back to the entry. Because if you keep screwing up your entries, your whole line is going to be off through the whole rest of the run and you'll never actually finish the course. And I'm over here like, holy crap, that makes so much sense. Again, Mike Bolanos with the heavy knowledge. And I did just that. I just kind of autocrossed the whole run. I did the very bottom section of the course, the hairpin, the transition, and the last hairpin. And I was like, okay, I can do those. Great, cool. I can do the rest of the course. Let's work backwards. Now my practice session had unfortunately just ended, so I retired to the top of the rig to watch everybody else drive and hopefully pick up some more of those pointers that I was so desperately needing. I watch and I learn. I pay attention to where people are entering and I make a visual reference for myself on the track. Second session rolls around. It's now time to tackle the downhill section of Horsethief. Botched the entry on my first lap thinking that watching everybody would make me miraculously understand how to do it. And to clarify, the nice thing about Horsethief Mile is that it's a hot lap track. You don't stop driving. You literally just go. So you can go hard and overheat your car and then you have an entire half of a track to cool it down and get back in line. So my second lap comes up. I decide to, again, autocross through the entry, but this time I point myself at the clipping point and come down towards the outside of the track. I end up making the outside zone where I'm supposed to be. I flick back down and I don't have enough speed to make it to that hairpin. I'm like, how the hell are people freaking doing this? I had to drag my e-brake for like 400 yards to get down that hill. I'm like, ugh, I don't get it. Why can I not do this? Back up around the top, Mike Bolanos still chilling in his tent. And I'm like, dude, I cannot get that downhill section. So Mike says, you have to be on point when you hit that late apex inner clip, and you have to accelerate as far as you can down the hill, and then you have to stay on throttle during your transition for a second and a half. Then you throw the angle to slow yourself down into that last hairpin. I'm like, okay, fine. Thanks, Mike. Again, you're the man. Third or fourth attempt at doing that, and I make it all the way down that hill without using the e-brake. And I'm pretty sure that is the best feeling that I had had in a very, very long time with drifting, especially driving these new courses where I kept getting frustrated and it's all new. I think linking that downhill section, even being super low horsepower, felt phenomenal. Anyway, that session is over. I retire back to the pits. We take a look at the car because they have a little bit of time to kind of diagnose what's going on with mine. They think they've got what's fixed with Jim. Jim had actually moved into another group because he's had mechanical problems all day, and they go out. So they're looking at mine. We can't figure out what's wrong, but it's still running okay. So next practice session comes up. This is the final practice session before the next day of drifting. I've got the bottom section of the course dialed. I've got the downhill section okay, and now it's time to work on entries. So for me, being super low horsepower, it's first gear, second gear, tapping rev limiter as I'm hitting the top of the hill, because if I shift into third, I lose all oomph whatsoever. So I hit the top, I have to e-brake in, but I e-brake super early, give it a few clutch kicks, and I actually make it all the way around the top and dive down right across that clipping point, just like Mike said to do. And I complete my first lap of Horsethief on the last session. Stoked. Now that I've completed a complete lap at Horsethief, I really start to feel the rhythm of this track. And for those of you that have been drifting for a really long time, every track that you go to has specific timing that's involved with every transition, every corner, and every finish line. It's just kind of how it is. And as you progress with drifting, you learn to understand the timing of everything. And that alone is where you learn the body movements, where you learn the muscle memory for the track. And learning the muscle memory of a track, if you're competing, is very important, because when you're lost in the smoke behind somebody, you have to trust that you know the track well enough to make the transitions at the right point without crashing you or the driver in front of you. So muscle memory is why you practice a track so much. It's why you want to take advantage. It's why you want to have a spotter, which of course I didn't have. Those are all the reasons why you want to get as much out of practice as you can. And so finally learning how to link the whole course together in the last practice sessions, probably not the best way to do it, but it was a completely new track, completely new experience, and I was just stoked that I was actually able to link the whole course and basically hit the clipping points. I finished the last session and I'm actually feeling proud, accomplished, good about my runs. Some of the guys from Car Crafters said they were actually looking 1,000 times better than they were earlier in that morning when I couldn't link the freaking course. So of course they were. Anyway, we pack up, we lock everything up, we head into town, we go eat dinner, and we crash out for the evening. We wake up bright and early to head back to Willow in the morning, and we sit down at the driver's meeting. There is a crap load more drivers. Like, there was maybe 25 or 30 people, and it was mostly guys like me that were okay at drifting, and I was like, cool, I can deal with this. This seems good. I might be able to have a chance at making top 16. That'd be awesome. Then like 30 more dudes show up, and of course, you know, these guys are really good at drifting because they skipped the whole practice day and just decided to come for the comp day. Talk about daunting. So those nervous feelings started creeping back up again. I realized that I was driving with kind of, I would say, the rookies, the back half, the guys that didn't need the practice, and I immediately kind of started getting anxious about it. Like, I may not qualify. There's a lot of really, really good dudes here. We're in the last practice session in the morning, and there's only 2 practice sessions before qualifying. So I go out for my first qualifying session, and the car is running like absolute garbage. Like, it is half the horsepower it had yesterday, which was like half the horsepower I had when we went out there in the first place. So I literally can't make it up the hill without being in first gear, and that is a big no-go for that track. Just not gonna happen. go home. So we go back into the pits, and I have the car crafters guys look over the car, and we pull the spark plugs. 3 of them have gigantic cracks in the ceramic. No wonder it's so down on power. I'm running on a 3-cylinder. It's a freaking Geo Metro out there. Hop in the rental car and I haul ass to the closest AutoZone. I get whatever plugs I could find, haul ass back. We put the plugs in and I make it just in time to hit the second session of practice. The car has 330 horsepower again, and I'm freaking stoked. It's so easy to get up to the top of the hill. I can be in 3rd gear. I can downshift into 2nd gear. I can power through down the hill, and I can flick as hard as I want. Everything is feeling good at this moment. The car feels great. The power feels great. Learning to do it in low horsepower helped me so much with the line because that track is so hard to do. If you have low horsepower and you can complete Horsethief in a high horsepower car, it makes it a cakewalk comparatively. That really helped me in my confidence level in making that course happen. So I'm kind of glad that the car wasn't running very well, and then we were able to actually fix it and make horsepower. So that ended up working out all right. So go through the whole practice session and I'm feeling as confident as I can in the car and my abilities to make top 16. We head into another driver's meeting right before qualification is to start. Charlie's serious now. There's no joking. They're talking about line. He has all the judges over there and I can't remember who they are. Pretty sure it was Justin, Pawlak, and Taka. I don't remember who the 3rd judge was. I didn't write it down in my blog for some reason. All of those guys came over and explained the course and explained exactly what they wanted to see. They're very picky about this section of the course. In this section of the course, you can be open for freestyle here, but they really want to see this, this, and this. Taking mental notes, and I'm like, I think I was doing all of those things during practice, so I think I should be okay. And then at this point, I have no idea what a spotter is or what a spotter would do for you. To me, everybody at the racetrack is just a spectator that's not at driving. So I don't know. I didn't know what a spotter was until season 2. So I'm sitting in 18th at this point or somewhere around there. So I'm like mid-pack through qualifying, which means I get to watch everybody on the way down to me, which is good. Again, I'm watching these runs and it's solo runs. So you get to fully concentrate on what these drivers are doing. Most of the guys are doing good. A bunch of them are spinning out down at the bottom of the second hairpin. And I'm getting a little nervous again and head out onto the course to do my first qualifying run. Line up at the tent. Mike Bomac tells me to chill. Remember what I told you last time and just go do a good job. You're having fun. And I said, yeah, you know, I am. I'm having a blast. Thanks, Mike. And with that vote of confidence, I take off for my first qualifying run. I'm in my happy place and I do the most conservative run that you could ever imagine. Didn't have a very high score, but I had a score. Now the car was still feeling great, but I didn't want to shoot myself in the foot like I did in Vegas and mash the gas and spin out for absolutely no reason. Second run, I felt like I did better, but I got the exact same score. Literally no change from my first score to my second score. I have one more chance to prove myself as a driver. Again, Mike with the good advice. He said, you're still driving the car like it has no horsepower. You have no angle, you have no smoke, you're being super timid. Let it eat, man. And I said, oh, yeah, you're right. I totally am. What the shit, Lana? Third run out, I kicked it up like 10 notches. I had nothing to lose. I was on the books. I just probably wasn't going to make top 16. And hey, screw it. Why not? I entered faster. I held more angle. I used more throttle. I didn't have to e-brake it all on the downhill section. I hung out all the way to the edge of the track, transitioned all the way back to the edge of the track, hit the inner clip on the way out, and just let her eat. Felt so good. But was it good enough to make top 16? It would be a while before I'd find out because there were still another 18 drivers in front of me to go. Now, as you know, you start qualification from the last ranked drivers to the best ranked drivers. So now I'm watching and these dudes are killing it. Like unreal runs. So much smoke, so much angle, so much speed coming up the hill. It's like, I don't think I'm gonna make it. There are 18 dudes that are shredding way harder than I did. I'm like, God dang it. This feeling starts to set over and you get really nervous and you disappoint yourself and you're like, maybe I should go start packing up. Nah, I guess I gotta go to the driver's meeting so they can not call my name and I can clap for everybody and then I can go cry in the trailer. And it sucks getting those feelings like, should I even be here? Am I good enough to hang out with these dudes? What's the story? I don't know how to feel. Now, Jim was still having mechanical issues with the car. They couldn't quite get the steering right, and unfortunately he spun out all 3 runs of qualifying, so he was officially out of the competition. They make their way down all the way to the first qualifier, and we head off to the driver's meeting to figure out who made top 16. There's 49 drivers that went out for qualification. Your boy Dan was one of them, but he had no idea if it was gonna make it. Charlie starts rattling off the top 16 names. 16th, 15th, 14th, 13th, 12th, 11th, 10th. I might as well start packing up my crap. 9th, 8th, Dan Brockett. Holy shit. Charlie just called my name and I'm single digit qualifying. I qualified 8th. So freaking pumped. It's not even funny. Now Jim's really upset because they spun out all qualifying runs. There was kind of a weird vibe going in the pits. They wanted to be happy for me, but I think they were still trying to console everything, and Jim was not having a good day, so it was kind of a weird thing that had happened there, but I qualified 8th and I'm in the show. Now I ended up being paired up first with John Jimison in the Brap Lord Yellow FC, aka oil cover on zip tide. Now I had to follow first and my nerves got the best of me. I straightened like 4 times trying to follow Jim up the hill, around the course, and back through the finish line. Horrible, horrible following run. But so did John following me. So we got my first ever one more time. Now our second run comes up and I do the exact same thing. I straighten a bunch of times following, we switch places, John follows me, doesn't straighten out a bunch of times and basically wipes the floor with me. Which sealed my fate and John moved on to the Great 8. Still super pumped I made top 16 and I knew that I had so much to learn with tandem driving that it wasn't even funny. And the best part is that John and I would end up becoming pretty damn good friends over the years. We'd go visit him in Long Beach and talk online. It's good. I like John. He's a good dude. I finally had another friend at Top Drift. So congrats for wiping the floor with me, buddy. You deserved it. We kicked back and we watched the rest of top 16. It was a great set of battles all the way down, and then we headed back to Albuquerque. I was so excited on the inside that I had made top 16 out of 50 freaking drivers, but I kind of had to keep that quiet because I know that they had had a really, really bad weekend, and I didn't want to rub it in, but I still wanted to be happy, and you know, it's just who I am. So I kind of had to keep it bottled in until I got home and I could get back on the internet. Enterfeelsgoodman.gif. And that is where I'm going to end this story. Tune in next time for some more Pro-Am shenanigans in Vegas and possibly another Top Drift round, because I got to start smashing these things out. If I'm doing one at a time, this is going to take forever. But hey, maybe it works out that way. Maybe it doesn't. Again, thank you guys so much for watching these. Please subscribe. I'm trying to release these videos every Monday. Sometimes life gets in the way. As such, I'll be at Grid Life next weekend, so come say hi out in Colorado at Pikes Peak International Raceway. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Officer Dan out.